Hello and welcome to another episode of Concentrated Dust. This time, by request, we're talking about arsenal building, do's and don'ts, and some basics for newer players. This could definitely have some depth, but it's going to start with a lot of basics. You can kind of shift through the video if you want to find certain things. Whoops, this isn't just the one Rockshot arsenal, that's for Reagan. So I'm going to go over, if you're brand new and you've been playing Quick forever and you want to start making arsenals, what do? This is all going to focus basically on standard, the most common play mode, and generally tag. So the first thing you do is you have an arsenal case. Up here in the top left, there's little dots. When you buy these, you know that you can buy 1, 2, or 3 school cases. This doesn't just change the number of schools you can use, but it also changes your aura recovery. So right now, if I tried to say okay, it would say too many schools. I could have 2. I couldn't have 3 or more. You can have 3 school arsenal, and if you do, you lose 30% aura recovery. When we say percent aura recovery, we're talking about the same stuff you get from meditation, right? So you effectively lose 1.5 meditations for free just to get a 3rd school. To go to 1 school with 2 as our base, you gain 30% aura recovery, so aura comes back faster, and that's a great boon. But it only gives you the skills of a single school. Even if you have a 3 school case and put 1 school in it, you're still going to have the reduced aura recovery. It's based on the case, not the number present. Make sure you know that building your arsenals. Generally speaking, having higher aura recovery in a 1 school means that I can be more aggressive. If I'm not using it to attack or block often, I'm wasting that aura recovery over time. So if I want that aura recovery, I have to say I need to use it at all times. Otherwise, why am I not using a 2nd school of skills to give me options? For a 3 school, you don't want to attack and block as often because you're vulnerable. They could, for instance, use their rock shot more than you can use your psycho shell and get around your aura after only a couple of hits. Because of that, I would limit 3 school to generally combo decks, and once you really know what you're doing with the game. Even then, most high-level players stick to 2 almost exclusively. If you were new and weren't sure, I might have 1 3 and 1 school case. Play with them every once in a while, but generally stick to the 2 school formula. With that, we need to talk about what each of these schools does. I'm also going to talk about this whole interface, right? We're going to try to close that out and hope no one else bugs me right now. I can hit A and go into this, and you see attacks, defenses, race, status, special, environmental. If I hit Y, it tells me that it sorts it by school, then cost, then strength. Which means, for instance, that Blaster and Vibration Blaster are both 4 cost. Since Vibration is stronger, it comes before Blaster. You can change that sort, or you can just kind of memorize it, and it helps you get to your skills faster. I'd like to show off Mass School. I don't think a lot of people use this, but it's pretty cool. If I know that I'm playing Nature Faith because what else exists, this limits me to only Nature and Faith skills showing. Just less scrolling, less time, triggers to scroll faster. You're now saving tons of time playing. That way you also don't accidentally build an illegal arsenal and say, oh, I really thought I could have speed ups in this one. Anyways, down to what these schools do. So we have 5 schools. They have very different strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of this will be about that because that's a good core of what you're building. Psycho, for instance, has strong defenses. The only 8 cost shield infinite use here was Psychic Wall, and we have reverse and change course. We'll get into shield types in a minute. But these are great and powerful defenses, but none of them in the entire school have any erase effects. Unlike, say, Erase Shell, which erases any attack skill it blocks. No erase effects in Psycho whatsoever. If you pair it with a school like Key, you will have very few erase effects, as Key only has Iron Skin to erase short range. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're picking your schools. So Psycho, strong defense, might want to pair it with Erase Shields. For attacks, it has a lot of parabolas, such as Stone Shot and Debris Bullets and Psycho Spear and Rock Shot. No one likes Rock Shot. Also the whole class of bombs. These plus Rains makes it very specific to odd angles. Not super strong on Panorama, where there's a lot of roofs, but can do a lot of damage on Lane, on Refinery, where you don't really want a direct line of sight with your opponent, but you want to mess with them at a different angle. Psycho can do that. Psycho also likes to get up in their face with knives, swords. We've got Psycho Knife, Knife Grind, and such skills like Excalibur, and Mines. So when you're building Psycho, you're thinking, I can aggress, I can hit some weird angles, I can put pressure on their base with this. For specifics of what Psycho does, it has Bravery as its, quote, special thing that says requires 7 or fewer skills left in Arsenal. So that means is that you start with 30, you automatically have 4 in your hand, 3 on the spawn. Once that count gets down to 7, you can use Railgun, Excalibur, and Cluster Bomb. There is a skill called Bravery Decision, thus we sometimes call them Bravery skills. This gets rid of your aura particles, bringing you very close to 7 quickly. It also makes you a glass cannon. Otherwise, you can use these as a good end game, where you play a normal, fair game, and once you get low, you start Excalibering people. For defenses, it is Anti-Pierce is their focus. This lets you block from any amount of damage. That could be a Psycho Spear coming, and you could block it with a Crystal Wall and end up fine. Anti-Pierce doesn't come up a whole lot, but when it does, it's life-saving. They have 2 Course Shields. There's only 3 in the game, 2 of them from this school. Change Course is just like Gust, basically. And then you have Reverse, which notably returns it to the target. They also have About Face, which is a single-use reverse. These are an interesting way to turn the tide on your opponent, kind of get a tricky hit. For Erase, notice, this is probably, I think, the fewest Erase of any school. There's only 4. One of them is an Onrine skill. There is Confusion Gas. This is the straightest Erase it has. Takes a random skill, does not matter what kind. One-use mine. Shatter, if we're talking about Capsule Erase, it does have strong Capsule Erase. Shatter versus Eliminate, these are very similar skills. But taking skills over Aura, usually really strong. Usually takes your opponent more out of the game. Can finish a person off in the late game by getting their last capsule, unless it's Aura, unfortunately. So that late game potential of Shatter, not super strong. Crush, it has an infinite use, good way to get rid of environmentals, knock people out of the air, notably. And Shield Breaker, interesting that it looks like a lightning sword, but it's not in the same school as lightning sword. Basically a close range Dragon Slayer. Good for an aggressive arsenal, which you can see where this could come. Confusion Gas, Shatter, Mines. You could definitely build a Psycho arsenal to go really aggressive in their base instead of in your own. Probably kicking them out, taking their skills away, taking their defenses, sorting them. And it does have late game if you need it in the Bravery skills. It has a lot of greens, you see. A couple of them good stuns. I'm going to go over special and status kind of together. So for stuns, you know, setups for your teammate, Pressure. It's one use, but it's long. It sits them on the ground. They can't move. You've got Vapor Cloud, which also similarly stops their motion for a number of seconds to get a hit in. Lift Up also does this, puts them in the air. They might take some fall damage from it. Not too different from Pressure otherwise. On yellows, we've got Frighten. This one's interesting because there's no blocking it. It happens automatically. Very few skills do this in general. You can jump it if you hear the noise, therefore having immunity on the ground, but pretty powerful. Dazzle, Dazzle is well known for being a long stun, pretty good accuracy. Cartwheelers hate it. Scrambling the buttons can give you a small advantage. You can use the D-pad to see what skill is where during the Dazzle. Let's see, I think that's all of this, quote, stun moves. You also have stats. They focus on speed and accuracy. You can increase a teammate's speed with Alleviate. You can increase your own accuracy with Acquisition, or your own speed with Speed Up. The Acquisition goes great with the Parabolas. Not so great with like the Railgun style skills and Psycho Sniper. But Parabolas and Acquisition go together. It's like butter. You've got Speed Ups, which do a great job with your sword skills. Get in there, push in. Skywalk and Levitate, there's Levitate, are both go into the air and rain down parabolas, basically, in Psycho. There's things you can do with other schools. You can also lower an opponent's homing accuracy, opposite of Acquisition. Pretty good if you're going into a sword combo because you don't want to get hit. Burden lowers their speed, so it has all of the control of speed and accuracy in this school here. Oh, anti-gravity trap, also kind of a stun. Levitates them in the air, like a pressure on a stick. You've got Freeze Shot is a really weird one. There is a bug that with increased strength, this does damage. Otherwise, it just stops them from using a singular skill. Pretty cool. And ways to invert their controls. Brain Concussion, and an environmental also. We'll get to those. Invert controls on a map like Refinery, where there's little hallways. That can be pretty devastating. We've seen teams love that. Brain Concussion also does that, yeah. Let's see, with yellows, we also have things that move between bases. Return, teleportation, surprise attack, charge and retreat, and mobilize. In general, this lets you control who's at what base. Charge is one of the most commonly used because you can use it to your partner or an enemy. Charge lets you get in their face. Go in there, pop skills, put down mines, Psycho Knife them. Mobilize brings everyone to your base, so that's a combo setup usually. Call is kind of cool because if you want to keep an aggression on, go in them. So that's your basic of like... Oh, and you also have speed control in environmentals also. Increase or decrease. Anti-optical. There's 5 of these. They're in various schools. They don't come up a lot, but if you know your opponent's on optical, it's pretty strong. But yeah, so in general, parabolas, accuracy, speed, swords, good defenses. That's what we're getting out of this one. We have, notably, no control over the enemy or our own level. We have no ability to get rid of things that aren't attacks or defenses. In fact, we can't even get rid of attacks from our opponent. The only defense control we have is Shield Breaker. Psycho plays really fair. There's no Orb or Amulet to get around a race. It pairs really well with Nature or Faith, which both give you a way to fix stats, to stop a race, and to deal with other annoying skills. If you were teaming it up with Key, you would probably be looking at an arsenal that's very aggressive, with fewer things to help yourself. Now we go down to the next school is Optical. Optical is the long-range school. In every other school, there are very few to none long-range skills. There is Psycho Sniper and Railgun that goes to long range. And I believe that's the only real ones. Impact Burst will, Bomb Shot will. But lasers, Vibration, Mist, Laser itself, Slide and Twist, Double, Triple, you got it all. There's like 10 different long range skills in this. Powerful on Refinery, Highway, Sign, these maps where long range comes up often and has a lot of open space to hit them. The bread and butter of those is your Vibration Laser. We'll get back to that later, but know that the strength is basically levels, level 10 or higher. We've got 3 vibration skills, or 2? Vibration Vaster, Vibration Laser. Those 3 Mist skills, 2 vibration. For Mist, we have Laser, Blaster, and Blade. Mist Blade is like Laser Blade. Let's see if we can find Laser Blade and Mist Blade. Really good accuracy swords. Basically the only close range in the school. Super awkward. But they're good. So if you have a high level, you can smash them with vibration. If you don't want a high level, you can have really cost-effective ones that have penalty of levels. And you can abuse that a bit. So level control is optical. Generally, mist and vibration don't go in the same arsenal. You kind of pick one or the other. They have yellows to help support this in Quantum Amp, Boost Mind, Level Amp, Level Berserk. These all increase level of your partner, yourself and your partner, everybody. You have, if you really wanted, Downcast or Level Baton. But if you want to lower your level, most likely you want to play Mist, you want to play Charged Particles, or you want to play Restrain. These are ways to lower your level. Oh, and Quantum Decay. Ways to lower levels, and it's an interesting dynamic because Quantum Decay Mist arsenals kind of counter Vibration arsenals. So whether you want to be on high, your opponent wants to be on high level, yeah, it's kind of tricky. You've got a different style of skill that nothing else has in Photon Wave and Burst, exploding around yourself. It's hard to be aggressive with, really good at controlling areas or countering swords. Photon Burst is way bigger than Wave. In fairness, I should go back to Psycho and remind you that there's a Psycho Burst also, and Wave. These ones, the only thing they care about level is your opponent having a high one. So a Psycho Optical build could totally say, hey, I want you to have a high level and I'm going to smack you. More level control. It's a big thing in Optical. Their defenses, they don't get really high. 4, I believe, is the highest number, period, in Optical. They have Eraser and Erase Shell. I don't have any erasers available at the moment, but it's 2 for 3. Erase Shell 6 for 2. These are ways to break things generally once. Get rid of any attack skill. You have Reflect, Barrier, and Mirror. Reflect is like Reverse, except much quicker, and can break. So you have some strength and weakness there. Reverse can get around Dragon Slayer, Reflect Mirror cannot. Otherwise, you have very cheap, cost-effective defenses. You want to pair this with a school that has more erase defenses or high defense value. You do have Photon Barrier. Cost 4, weak to pierce. The Retain lets you keep it even if it's broken. That's probably the best high defense in the school. Let's talk about what they have for purples. Level control. Get rid of their aura particles. Erase them from the battlefield. Use them to reduce their level. Level control is literally every purple in the school. If you want them not to have vibration, if you want to punish them for using Bravery Decision, that's what Optical's good for. It does not affect anything that's not an aura particle. It does not affect anything that is a status. It does not get rid of non-attack and defense skills. It does not pop capsules besides aura. So it doesn't fix buffs. It's tricky. You have weaknesses to environmentals, you have weaknesses to status, but you can stop a couple key strategies like Vibration and Bravery. For their greens, you have more Paralyzed. There's a defense that does this, and a directed skill, and a hit everyone skill. That Paralyze, this lets them use their movement ability, jumping, cartwheeling, rolling, but not move. Makes it really easy to hit, but not an auto hit. You have Doze, interestingly lowers power. That is the only thing in the school that affects stats at all. You do have Invisibility, which is a unique defensive take in the school. As I said, you have everything that affects level. Let's see. The only things in here that don't are Recall and Relearn, and Recall requires a high level. These get back skills. Recall is really slow and could be kind of dangerous because you're not doing much while you're doing it. Relearn gets you any particular skill that you just lost. Great for an important attack or repeated of an erase, or get back an erase defense they broke. As defenses go, the other gimmick they have, I suppose, is Compressor. Number of defensive skills consumed. I don't suggest Compressor as an early build around because it leaves you, unfortunately, rather vulnerable when you are playing tag team. Having a handful of defenses does not kill an opponent. They have a lot of multi-hit attacks in Octolaser, Ricochet Laser, Triple Laser, yada yada. They benefit highly from status boosts, whether that's a key Tiger Strength or some heats, some Lunar Force, some Trance. Having a higher attack, pretty good, because a lot of their stuff at range does 1 to 3 damage and doesn't break a lot of erase shields. For environmentals, Holy Ray is similar to Doze, reduces damage. It's kind of good with their low capable defenses. Sometimes a Holy Ray plus a Ray Shell can get something it shouldn't otherwise. Reduced Entropy is a common gimping skill on your opponent. Get rid of their ability to do most things. If you build around having 2 or less, you could eliminate capsules, vibration laser faces, photon barrier, and reincarnation are useful with reduced entropy, but none of the bravery skills are, for instance. Sometimes you see a psycho-optic pairing using shatter and eliminate with this. Accelerate increases speed of capsules. Quiet Day slows it. These kind of play off the recall relearn arsenals of combo style, right? Backdraft is interesting. Reduces health for skill usage. This doesn't go well at all with like Vibration Laser or those skills that you want to repeatedly use, but it does go well with like Photon Burst, Octolaser, Ricochet Laser, the kind of stuff that does a lot of damage. There's other schools that could pair well with that. Opti, everyone has seen. Reduced aura cost. Outward Warning. This is a trap. This is often a trap. A lot of people play Opti and die. You want to use this, then play it when you know that you can aggress and not take a lot of damage, because their skills also cost half. That's their attacks, their defenses, everything. One of the hosers for a school. So, like I said, a lot of things they don't cover, but level totally on top of. Let's get to Nature. Nature single-handedly does the most things. If I go to my checklist of stuff it stops, I'm going to start here in the erase, actually. They get rid of capsules, if you really need to. Often, like the last 1 or 2, you could pop them out. Gets rid of environmentals with no fewer than 2 skills. This gets around chaos and reduce entropy, cost-wise. You can get rid of, uniquely, non-attack and non-defense skills. Wind Pressure gets rid of erase, special, status. Turbulence is really good against combos and silly decks that do odd things to take advantage of you. Gets rid of recalls and heats out of the opponent's hand. If they do use stats, you have Return to Nature and Purify to deal with them. That's infinite use. Purify everyone. Single use. Gets rid of environmentals and stats. If you only have room for one thing in your arsenal, it's probably Return to Nature. Answers a lot of stuff. So they can stop a race with Turbulence. They can also stop a race with Orb, a wonderful skill, right? It can't, even if there is a memory lapse down, it is retained. This gets through all of their race skills as long as you hold 2 aura. You can also get rid of them with Turbulence. They get rid of environmentals. They fix stats. They can pop capsules, though that is one of the weakest points in Nature. There is no level control and no mobility skills, but otherwise, pretty catch-all. If you need to add a school just to get more answers, Nature is your school, probably. Let's get to the attacks and what Nature does. It has a few elements. Fire just does more damage than the others. Ice freezes them for 10 seconds. There are a number of ice skills. There's a Peace, which is a single-use projectile. Lance is a multi-use projectile, increasing in cost. It's called Blade for the other elements. You have a Sword that increases in cost, just like the Lance and Blade. You have a Rain, even, that freezes them, and a Defense. So a lot of ways to freeze. It's very aggressive. It stops enemy orbs and amulets. Lots of cool things that can do. You have Thunder, which is really powerful. This is not an erase skill. This does not get stopped by orb or amulet. Thunder from all those styles of skills mentioned before, except a defense, gets rid of a defense of theirs. That's pretty powerful. They're low on aura and you hit them. They have 2 rains actually, Lightning Bolt and Thunderstorm. Thunderstorm gets rid of all equipped defenses. If you can hit them with that, they are vulnerable. So these 2, quote, statuses are really strong. There's also a piece of wind, and down here in our blades, a Storm Blade. This gets rid of attacks. That's pretty crazy cool. Get rid of their attacks, and they can't do much to you. So we have multiple statuses that are on attacks and defenses that get around Turbulence, that get around Orb. That's pretty cool. That's one of the biggest things that you see in nature. The swords, particularly, are very powerful. Flame, Ice, Lightning, these do a lot. What else do we have? We have a lot of medium range projectiles, basically nothing long. A lot of swords. Some more rains, just like in Psycho. And move skills, which are unique. Move skills allow you to go like this little tornado, right? Only blocked by shelters. Kind of cool. And a couple of hit holes that are an infinite use one in Earthquake. They have 2 or 3 gimmicks, I suppose. First is Blazing. This one says, I want to have high health. I want to hurt you with things that shouldn't do this much damage. Blazing Bullet probably being the pinnacle of this, because you keep at a safe distance during. There's Healing Water, and Blessed Water, and also defenses that regain health, Rafflesia Fang, that let you continue blazing despite issues. Your second style is Crystallization. This one is the first where you have to hold the skills. You hold all of these, and you can do up to 9 with 3 Piece of Fires. You're kind of vulnerable if you want to do massive damage, but it's a give and take. I also should mention, I guess, I missed them in Optical. I'm sorry. There are some bundles in Optical. Bundle Laser and Blaster. These are also strength of all equipped skills. Bundle Laser's hard because they do 3 at most. You don't really want to hold 3 Vibration Lasers. Bundle Blaster can find some good use, as you could do as much as 18, and even just doing 10 or 12 is really powerful. But I digress. Back to nature. Your last thing you can do is Memory of Battle. This is just like Compressor, but for attack skills. Because attacks are more proactive, that's a little more useful. It also has a number of single-use attacks that really strongly go with it. You have, let's see, Vacuum Slash, Fang of Tree, Thunderstorm, Geyser Impact. You've got these one-use, and Scar of Battles, which is the same thing but single-use. Good to break the shield before using your memory. So Memory Battle, a really good strategy to chip down their defenses, then swing for the gates. So with defenses, nature probably has the best defenses. If we look at the nature defenses, we have a number of skills that have erase effects. That includes Guard of Water, Wall of Current, and Fortress, getting rid of short-range attacks. Fortress being one of the best defenses in the game, possibly could be argued the best. Getting rid of short range gets rid of one of the weaknesses of having a high cost, being spam. Still could be spammed at range, but one of the best defenses in the game. It's a shelter. You also have Glacial Wall, which is the freezing mechanic in the school on a defense. You have efficient ones like Wall of Fire and Failing Wall, but Wall of Fire probably preferred. 2 for 6 repeatedly. That's nice. Guard of Water is automatic, so you're pretty safe against close-range attackers. You also have Vacuum Wall. It is your only good answer against, say, laser spam or bullet of fire spam, but it's a pretty good one. Unless they're hitting for 5, this is going to block it, get rid of it. Good day. It does have another course defense, the cheapest one, mind you, that is infinite use. It's pretty cool. And Cyclone, which is like an eraser, blocks for more, which is good against pierce skills, like a Psycho Spear, which generally you don't want to block, but if you do because they fake you out, rather use a Cyclone than an eraser. Rather take 0 than 5 from the pierce. We've gone over their race, which is a lot of shutting down opponents. They have some great greens in power boosts. Boosting damage dealt means piercing shield, which means killing faster, means getting the game done easier. Really good with lasers, good with things that either hit hard so you can break the biggest shields, or cost very little so you can use them repeatedly. There's a lot of 1 and 2 cost skills in nature. Friendship powers up an opponent or a teammate. Heat powers up yourself at the cost of a little aura. Not a lot. Stimulate, you really feel the aura recovery, but it is 2 power. Curse of Earth lowers an opponent's attack, just like Doze, but a crawl. So these are a lot of ways to control power, which is probably arguably the best stat. Decoy is an amazing use in tag. They simply cannot lock onto your partner while this is on, or their own partner if they're using a combo. 2 cost. It also stuns them for long enough for a hit if you're tag teaming. More freeze skills. Freeze everybody's button. Freeze something permanently with Frostbite. Poison Blur is interesting because it's poison, but not in the poison school that we'll get to later. Heat Devil is probably not pretty good, but if you find a use for it, please do. But power yourself up, freeze the opponent, and then healing, as we said. Graceful Woods, basically just a combo skill, could be used with Finisher. And Orb, the best race negating. As for Enviros, Unison says, let's play it fair. Dense Fog reduces homing, good with swords in close range. Give everything Pierce is good with like Memory of Battle, hitting really hard. No Erase, so they have no Psycho and no Erase. That's an interesting one in the school. It's the only one that's not just school type that they're completely preventing. And then you have Forest Sanctuary, can't use things that deal more than 3. Well, 3 is a big threshold in this game. Your Flame Sword does 3, your Bomb does 3, your Reincarnation and Willow do 3. But a lot of people try to do more, whether that's using a Heat, using Memory of Battle, using some other combo attacks. This stops them. And notably, if they do 3 at the most, Glacial Wall stops them indefinitely. Pretty good combo in the school. Let's get to Ki. Ki has a heavy amount of short range. Ki is fast. Their short range is different. Most are swords swinging from the left in kind of a quick jaunt, or blades like Excalibur and Psycho Blade and Blazing Sword that swing from the right in a big circle, but are a little bit slower. You have a lot of direct punches and kicks, like Hyper Kick, Hyper Punch. They're fast. They can be used really well if you sidestep an opponent's melee and then hit them with it. Pretty much an auto hit. That's the kind of play you want in Ki. Their special thing is having low level. Swift Blow, Swift Kick, and Swift Punch. Arguably the best one is Swift Punch. I don't have any available for some reason, but it's 2 for 4, infinite use, modest accuracy. You can't have higher than 2 level. That plays well with Optical if you want level control, or if you want to play Reduce Entropy, for instance. Though that puts you at 3, so you do have to lower your level afterwards. That's kind of their play. As for other build-arounds, you have Dance of Death, number of short-range attacks, or the amount of short-range attacks all together, that damage. If you use 3 Swift Blows, that's 21. That's an auto-kill. Even if you're just using a couple of Swift Punches or some Hyper Kicks, that's still doing a lot of damage for 5. Infinite use. It is only Ki short range, so it's very build around. Note that X skills like Key Palm don't add anything. The other build around is Heat from Void, Vacuum Palm. This is when the enemy has an empty hand, you do more damage. And when they have higher aura, you do more damage. What build around is that? Well, they have an extensive purple list. Holy moly. And if nature could get rid of skills because they're not attack or defense, Ki gets rid of skills indiscriminately. Just gets rid of them. Just get out of here. Lack. Nothing unlimited use. Disremember, get rid of the lowest cost, but repeatedly. So eventually could get rid of everything. Dragon Slayer, the best way to pierce a defense. Disrupt gets rid of all attack skills. Giant Slayer gets the highest. You get the point. If you want to get rid of their skills from their hand, and while their aura is high because they can't use anything, or a backflow, or Heat from the Void. It's very build around, very Sama from the single player. For defenses, they have lots of cheap defenses. Guard is their best value, 2 for 6 on a brush. Sometimes worse than a barrier, notably. They can erase short range, but nothing else. They do have a number of absorbs that are actually pretty cool. Digestion heals you. Learning literally adds a skill to your hand. And Absorb Energy gives you aura back. So when you're being spammed, it's basically an auto block. Because if they're using Vibration Laser, it costs 1, gives you 3 aura. They'll never get around it. But nothing higher than 6. And no, the only shelter is Iron Skin. So low defense shelters. So some danger. They do have dash, which is, it's a defense. Moving 30 feet. Doesn't get Dragon Slayed. Pretty great. Jump also likely not used, but some mobility. For other greens, we have Mind Reading. People know and love or hate this skill. I don't value it highly at tournament level, but it is really good to know what your opponent's doing. Some of the best greens in the game, though, are Tiger Strength and Lightning Speed. The weakness of stats is having them removed. Tiger Strength keeps coming back. Doesn't cost anything but a little bit of aura every 10-15 seconds. Throw out a skill and do a little more. Break a shield. It is wonderful. It is one of the best reasons to play Turbulence or Lack to get rid of. Lightning Speed with dash and with speed ups. These are the ways to move around the map. It's either defensive or aggressive depending on your usage. 15 seconds also. You can sometimes be caught reapplying it. You have to be careful. They play with aura recovery. So increase your own, increase a partner's. Those are pretty useful. This does cancel out the negative from heats and stimulates, but does put a lot of greens in your arsenal. Void is unique in that it gives you damage immunity. Similar to invisibility, but a little more thorough. You can be erased. You can be targeted by things that don't damage you, notably attack damage, right? But pretty useful if you're going aggressive with your close range key. This one, kind of like Heat Devil, hard to use too well. You just be very all in on it. Pin down, a good stun. The erase skills themselves are great stuns because all of them make you hold your head and get confused for a second, which can be followed up by yourself or a teammate. Pin down is a hole that some people have trouble dodging, and holds them for a while through a wall, which is really cool if you're far away from your teammate. For their yellows, they have some of the weirdest ones. Play Dead and Regenerate heal you, which is cool. You're standing still, Regenerate makes a noise, Play Dead makes you slow for 30 seconds, but is kind of sneaky. Those are great ways to stay in the game. I like them more than Healing Water often because it can get you more than 5, or it can be multiple use, like Play Dead in tag. Trigger, kind of a tricksy thing. Make them use their one-use skill, make them use their aura, make them lose health. Could make combos with it. Sword Slap and Vacuum Bolt are only usable in very small corner cases. If you're not sure, avoid them for now. Play with them later. For environmentals, more playing with aura. This ceases it while moving. A lot of R's in key cost very little, so this has a lot of usage of, hey, I'm going to spam you, and what are you going to do about it? Or I'm chasing in melee. Regular Rhythm doubles cost, the anti-opti. If I'm using anything besides Dance of Death, my skills usually cost 2 or 3 in this school. That means that yours probably costs 4 or 5, making them 8 or 10. I can get around your shields, I can hurt you. Good combos with some cheap stuff in nature, plus heats. Memory Lapse is one of the other super powerful environmentals. Single use, we win the game with infinite use skills. That is the bread and butter of Phantom Dust. If you put this down and can either defend it or hang it, it could be game winning. Even if they use a crush, it becomes a single use and they lose it. There's whole build arounds. Remember that retain skills and lock skills get through Memory Lapse. Those are important. Soul Cage, this stops them from capturing. Kind of combos with Erase, because that empties their hand. Chaos, the opposite of Reduce Entropy, only expensive skills. This stops, notably, Orb from functioning, which makes an Amulet, which makes your ability to erase them so much better. Stagnant Air, no nature. Alright, so if we look at the whole of this, they can't really stop erase skills except by lacking them or disremembering them. They are weak to their own Dragon Slayers, weak to their own lacks, oddly enough. Dash doesn't get Dragon Slayed, that's about it. They have no way to remove environmentals. They can fix their own stats and a single target stats. Neutralization is good if your partner's buffing, because you're not stopping them. No capsule popping whatsoever, but it goes well with it, because you have Erase to kind of shut them down. The only way to stop non-red and blue skills is, unlike Turbulence, you can lack them, you can disremember them. That's basically it, but those are strong. There's really good mobility. You can use level control, but don't actually have any, so that's kind of neat. All in all, a good number of answers, if only because of the Erase. Then we get to Faith, which is another, besides nature, of the most used skills. Their thing is 7 or lower health, which most people just get to at some point. It kind of happens. 7 or lower health. You can pay life with a lot of skills in this school, and then use stuff like Agonies, Lingering Flame, Lucifer's, Arrow of Artemis, underused but pretty cool. Besides that, you often get a good cost strength value for penalty to health. So if you'd like that, the pinnacle of it is your good old Fire of Gehenna, but there are others. Pay health to do a lot of damage to them. Somewhat dangerous, but powerful, shield-breaking stuff. Rian deserves rewards for being maybe the strongest attack in the game. Retain is powerful. Retain it is single use, so it can't get lacked. Even if it was infinite use, it would retain. If you shoot it at 2 aura, you will lose it. If you shoot it at 4 aura, you will keep it. If you shoot it at 6 aura, you will keep it even if they try to erase it. That means if they have an eraser or a vacuum wall, and you buff your stats, you are smashing through shields, and it's pretty safe. That's one of the best things about the school. You also have, of note, Will-o'-the-Wisp, which is a similar 3 damage skill, times well because it's kind of slow, really accurate. You have a lot of mid-range power. You also have single use, Swarm and Dance of Moth, Poison, that is their thing. Button presses deal 1 damage. Does not combo with ice at all. Poison is kind of cool when you're on the aggressive, putting it on your opponent. Single use in a number of skills like Vampire Bats, Thor's Hammer, Celestial Ships, Sporicism, Muramasa. These play well with Memory of Battle style arsenals, or Relearn Recall style arsenals. Or if you just want to Muramasa then to break shields, pretty effective. True Muramasa is infinite use. Not as good cost benefit, heavy penalty, but you get to reuse it. They don't have a lot of melee in the school. The only other melee is stuff that tries to steal health or steal aura, which aren't very powerful unless you build around them. The other thing they do is a lot of crawl skills. These are really good against cartwheelers. Cartwheelers do not like crawl skills like Venom Fang and crawlers. They are hard to get away from. Will-o'-wisp is also. Besides that, some other things. Wings of Hope requires 3 or lower health, but it is infinite use healing. It is the only infinite use healing in the entire game. That is of note. Besides digestion, I suppose, but that gets broken pretty often. If you power up if you increase your damage, this heals you even more. So does Vampire Bats. So if you want to get some other build-arounds, you can have Sign of Saints. If you have an empty hand from these 1 uses, from erase skills, whatever, this does up to 6 damage for 4 with reasonable accuracy. If you give it at least +2 accuracy, it's unjumpable. At +4 or 6, it's almost uncartwheelable. It's kind of cool. You've got, let's see, Judge of Anubis and Joke of Anubis. you're playing with health. This whole school loves playing with health. So if I used a lot of health draining skills and finish them with a judge, it can do like almost 40 damage. It's crazy. And if we want our last thought on what we can do, some holes. Jackpot is hilarious. Jackpot is random, and I should mention that Psycho also has a few random skills. These go well with power buffs because the highest value is really cost efficient. And if you make this, say, 2, 5, or 8, that's a pretty good deal. You're almost always winning. Breaking shields. For defenses, Faith has some weaknesses and strengths. Flash Hole, Angel's Wing, Dark Hole. These are fantastic ways to get rid of your opponent's skills. I said 3 is the number. Flash Hole erases 3 repeatedly. That is so vital. You will see these. You will have to play around them. This is what the game is about. Angel's Wing sometimes is not reliable, but a great way to stop swords. Other than that, they don't have a lot of high defense. Their most reliable one is Shield of Aegis at 2 for 5, or Protect Circle, Shelter for 2 for 4. But no repeatable 6s. That's notable. It's weak to that. So if you add Nature or Psycho with their high defense, along with the good erase here, it's pretty good balancing. An arsenal that has Flash Hole and Fortress of Iron usually is a good day. For erase, you can deal with, let's see what we've got. No environmentals in the battlefield repeatedly. Fix my own stats. Reduce your level. Get rid of one of your capsules or many of your capsules. Another hole, this erases equipped skills. We can play with, at a health cost, a lot of different things. Hungry Demon and Bloody Ritual are good level and hand control. You've got Vicious Balance, which is a really build-around level control that is destructive. Judge Varies, the only way to get rid of course defenses, basically, right? And gets rid of all of them at once. Great for combos, all-in strategies, or using Dash or Photon Barrier. These are kind of things we can put together. Diabolical Trick is the best attrition skill in the game. Repeatedly erasing capsules, doesn't matter what kind of capsule. Violent Change gets rid of all of them on the battlefield. If they only have 3 left, this kills them. End of game. Because we have things like Hungry Demon, Vicious Balance, Erase Shields, if we team it up with Key or Nature to get rid of more skills, Violent Change and Diabolical Trick make a big attrition arsenal. More cost of your health with, I don't have any trances at the moment. Trance is like Tiger Strength but costs 0, costs 1 health. Great way to deal extra damage while not using a lot of aura. Doppelganger copies someone's skills, kind of cool. Not a lot of greens, you know. They're kind of sticking into the purple. Some yellows, a lot of them actually. Rebirth, if we want to keep our level low, that's a huge penalty. Restores 10 health. There's a lot of zero-cost skills in the school. You could play it with Key for keeping it 2. A lot of play. Mephisto's one of the most useful skills in the game. Get anything from your arsenal. You're standing still for a moment, so be careful, but get the answer you need. Amulet is like Orb, but 3 use, and you can overwrite it. It's kind of cool. Stops a lot of silly erase. Armoros Watch, and Angel's Breath are your 3 ways to fix attributes, and boy does it mess them up. If you give them a -2 permanent strength, they likely can't kill you. Armoros Watch is single use, or single target and infinite use. Great to pick exactly who has what stats. Other than that, Fusion, Annoying Gift, Phantom Dust, these are just combo fodder. They're kind of cool. Play around them knowing their combo skills. Don't play around with them thinking that you can build a standard arsenal with this. Annoying Gift is very tag oriented, but useful. Lunar Force, very often seen, helps you break defenses. Can't be Armoros, can't be Purified. Traveling Thought is the only non-psycho way to get increased accuracy, and a whole lot of it. Really cool Psycho Faith where you get like plus 50, 80, 90% accuracy and just smash them with bombs, or Rians and Willows, or Fire Gehenna. Necronomicon is another equalizing skill. Don't read the description. Here's what it does. If they are trying to ice you, lightning you, wind you, that is get rid of your attacks. If they are trying to retain a reincarnation, these things are gone. It does not get rid of penalties and restrictions. It does not let you use bravery skills or agonies of death at the wrong threshold. It doesn't get rid of thresholds, if that word makes sense to encompass it. But it stops reincarnation, which is a big deal because reincarnation is the best way to stop Flashfall. Useful there. Athena's command, the opposite of Forest Sanctuary, make them do a lot of damage. It's interesting because you don't want them to do a lot of damage to break your shields, but depending with the right school combo can make something happen. And the last, School Hoser. So if we go over what Faith can do, sometimes at a cost, can stop a race with an amulet, remove environmentals with Judgment, fix and reverse stats, fix your own with Angel's Tears, and reverse with Armoros. Powerful, unique. Buff your own stats temporarily. I mean, Trance is a +2 attack, that's great. Pop Capsules, the best in the game. Remove non-red and blue skills. They've got like Hungry Demon. They've got like Thieving Imp and Diabolical Trick, but not so much. Not a lot of mobility. Level control through Vicious and Bloody is pretty strong. They have a lot of answers. If you didn't already know, Nature Faith is probably the most common school combination because you have access to basically every answer you could ask for. You can get around almost every hung environmental. You could freeze them and then use your erase on them. A lot of options in Nature Faith. You'll see that a lot. Alright, so that's going over the basics of what all the schools do. I'm going to give you a little more about skills themselves because this isn't explained too well. Let's start with the attack types. Parabolas do an arc, like throwing a bomb. A lot of things straight shoot if they don't say anything. Fall is an angle starting from above your opponent's head. Does not matter where you are. If you're below or above or on the same level, it goes from above the opponent's head. You can use this above an enemy and it goes below Highway, for instance, or vice versa. That's Meteor, that's Sign of Saints. Rains go from the ceiling, can only be blocked by shelters. Also move skills, like Tornadoes, only blocked by shelters. Holes on the ground can be blocked by shelters and absorbs. We'll get to the defense types in a little bit. Melee, there's sword melee and direct melee like Psycho Burst, like Hyper Kick. Those are all considered melee in terms of how shields work. Arc means a little bit of an angle to the right, or in Twist Laser's case, to the left. Can kind of get around something so you can use it from cover, especially Twist and Slide that have a deeper arc. Triple Laser has an arc that also goes to the top, as well as Octalaser, to get around things that are blocking. Arcs are essentially straight shots at long range, but they do move in the middle of it, to note. Explode around self, I already explained. Let's see, crawl skills again, going around the ground. Ground laser shoots too, by the way. Let's see, a lot of straight shots like Vibration Blaster and Blaster. Speed really affects who's this good against. Vibration Blaster, better against jumpers, while L-Bomb is really hard to cartwheel because it's super, super slow. It's a fake-out skill for Vibration Blaster. Killer Satellite is just a rain, regardless of how weird it looks. Let's see, last attack types. Arcs. Piece of Wind, Sonic Boom, these are arcs, but at medium range. Are there any more styles? I want to just make sure I don't forget this, because someone might not know, and it's really unfair if they don't. I'm going to go quickly through the skills. Things like Backdraft Bullet, Pursuit, and require the opponent to be on the ground. You also have Gravity Press and the nature one that I don't remember. Let's see the name of that one again. It is Geyser Impact. Can be used on the ground or standing, but the ones in Key require them to be on the ground. That is unique. They also have a lot of knockdown effects. That's another kind of synergy they've got going. Some things pierce obstacles, penetrates obstacles. Some directly, some reigns. That's to note. Anything that says can't be erased or overwritten literally means that. It's a lock skill. Orb, Sigil of Death, Sign of Saints. Some penetrate defenses. We've already gone over that. I think that's all the types of skills. Defenses. These people I think know less about. Course. Let's talk about that. Normally, you make this weird disco dance gesture and throw the attack away from you, behind you, to like your 5 o'clock. This means it never hits. Means there's no defense value. They could hit you for a 99 damage finisher, and it's irrelevant. Reverse throws it back at them. Barriers are directly in front of you. If they hit you from the side or back, you will still get hit. Directly above you, you will still get hit. Barriers are often fast, though. Shelters stop anything. Even if they don't look like it, they stop below your feet. Reflect, again, is similar to Course, similar to Reverse, but it works as a barrier. All Reflect are barriers. Then we have Absorb, which is a weird style, and Brush. Brush is kind of like a melee version of Course. It effectively is a barrier that doesn't stop things like Photon Wave and Photon Burst. Otherwise, it's basically a barrier. Absorb only works against projectiles. That includes holes, but not rains, and not move skills. But really good against like arcs, parabolas, direct shots. Let's see. I think that's all the different like skill types I wanted to go over. The last bit is kind of how you want to build an arsenal. I'm going to go to an existing one. Here's a really good example. That's not a good example. This is a good example of an existing arsenal. Okay, it's a bad arsenal, but it's a good example of what I'm going to explain. If you're not sure how to build, and you're like, okay, I know that I want Psycho for high defenses and Faith for big attacks that cost some health and erase defenses, how do I build it? My rule of thumb is 5-5-5. That is generally 5 attacks, 4 or 5 defenses, and 4 or 5 other things that help you win the game. That could be erasing their stuff, buffing yourself, making it fair like a Turbulence or a Purify, or popping them out if you're playing an attrition style with your defenses. I would sometimes go down to 3 defenses if you're feeling like they're really good infinite use defenses. I would seldom go down to 2. I would not suggest a new player to go down to 2. 5 is good. When you have 5, often it's a couple single use and a couple infinite. You want at least 2 infinite use shields that have a reasonable defense amount. That's Psycho Shell, that's Photon Barrier, that's Fortress, that's Guard. These are the best ones, and Psychic Wall at the highest value, right? These ones, you want at least 2 infinite use, just in case the Dragon Slayer broke from something. Generally a good idea. For attacks, 5 to 6 attacks. Some arsenals, like Dance of Death, Memory of Battle, these might ask you to run more of the attacks than that. In doing so, you just have to be careful, and you're going kind of glass cannon-y. In your 5, 6, sometimes 7 attacks, you want to have a variety. If you're playing Vibration or Bravery, don't make that your only thing unless you know you're going all in, because some of those things can be played around. If you're playing Bravery and they pop your capsules, you didn't do anything until then. If I also have a Rock Shot, it means I can play early if I don't have low capsule count. If I get level erased, I have Vibration Blaster and Blaster. I can play around it. I would have at least 2 or 3 infinite use / reincarnation attacks in an arsenal. If you want to run some, like if this one had Psycho Spears instead of Big Bombs, that would be fine. This would look fine. If I ran like 3 Psycho Spears, I would say that's not enough infinite use skills. If they hit me with a couple of good old defense shields like Flash Holes, I am out of this. This arsenal is actually a really bad example, and that's good. This arsenal runs stats with no way of fixing them. Does not have a Purify, a Refresh, an Angel Tears, or Return to Nature. There are no ways to stop an Armoros from ruining my day. Literally wouldn't. This is an all-in arsenal, right? Doesn't mean you can't play like that, but know that you could be abused. Also, I have 6, which is a rather high amount of non-red-blue, as it were. And I don't have Orb or Amulet, which means I'm really weak to Turbulence. I'm weak to Lax, getting rid of some of the, like, Frightens in this case, but sometimes others, like Dash. So let's look for something that's like a better example, right? 555. Do I have any good arsenals in this account? I'm not sure. I'm sorry if I don't. Here's one. Here is Big Bird. I stole this kind of from Bragan. This is not the version that's on my main account, because I'm playing on my second one right now. But this has, let's see, some retained skills that I know will stick in my hand. Variety of attacks. I have ways to lose life, like Fire of Gehenna and Trance. And payoffs, Lingering Flame and Wings of Hope. We see synergy there. I have stats, Heat, Trance. Return to Nature to fix them. Return to Nature is also good if you run an environmental, because I can get rid of yours and play mine. Only one can be on the field at a time. This kind of arsenal has some weaknesses, and that's fine. It runs a high amount of non-attack and defense, which means I could be weak to Turbulence. It means I don't have as many defenses. I also don't have any close range attacks. That's fine. Those are things to play around, to build around with your partner, to play around as you're playing, knowing that I want to stay at medium range. That is my hotspot. All of my skills are medium range in this arsenal. While I only have 3 defenses, they're all infinite use. High defense value, good erase defenses. This arsenal could probably benefit from getting an extra Glacial Wall, or Angel's Wing, or a second Fortress. But yeah, the 555 are things to think about. Think about, in your arsenal, how do I deal with what my opponent has? The worst games are the ones where you can't interact. Do they hang a Memory Lapse? You need to have a Return to Nature, or a Reincarnation, or a Crush, or a Judgment, or Starting Point. Did they play something that says only 3 or less? Well, let's look at my strength and cost. I have cost 2, and I have cost over 2. That means I can use skills whether I'm limited to 2 or less, or limited to 3 or up. I have strength 3 and strength over 3. Heat makes a lot of my skills higher than 3, so that would actually be bad in Forest Sanctuary. Luckily, I do have a Return to Nature. How do I deal with the Race Shields? Well, this one loves dealing with the Race Shields. Reincarnation plus buffs. Best way. One-use skills. Fire of Gehenna. Great ways to deal with Race Shields. This arsenal would have a weakness to charge, to dash, to things that get around the map quickly to get away from me. That's another thing to think about. How do I deal with non-red and blue? You know, how do I fix stats, remove environmentals, stop a race? This does not have an amulet. It could totally fit an amulet in here and make this maybe a better arsenal. That's kind of your gist of what you want to do. I think that covers everything I had written down here. Yeah, so when you think about an arsenal, plan out. Try not to start out with a lot of glass cannon builds. Don't make the only vibration laser arsenals, because there are ways for the enemy to stop you, and it could hurt really bad. Have a lot of answers. Play Return to Nature, Turbulence, Armoros, Amulet. Let's see what I had that also has answers. You know, play the Diabolical Trick, play the Amulet, play good defenses. This is a better example than any of the other ones I showed you previously, right? This has medium and short. It has a tag team skill to help out. It fixes environmentals. It fixes stats. It gets rid of their capsules. So while I can't Turbulence, I can stop them from dashing around. It's hard to erase me. Hard to get through my 5 erase shields. It's a good number. No high value attacks. That would be a weakness of this arsenal. Often you want to say, can I do more than 3 damage? This one can't. This one obviously plays like the second role of a tag team. Anyways, if anyone has any questions, ask me in comments. Ask me on Phantom Dust Revived, or in the chat, or on Phantom Dust itself. Reborn Guinan is the gamer tag. Thanks for watching. Next up, I'm going to have some arsenal builds, so suggest those too.